So in this video, we want to talk about abortions. We want to talk about the race that's going on, when life really begins, the whole psychology behind it, and so much more. So if you're a little bit squeamish and you don't want to watch it because it isn't the hairy-fairy nice video that's often out there, I get it, I understand. But if you want to know about the facts, the figures, and the real truth behind what's going on in abortions, stay and watch this. So first of all, what is an abortion? Well, an abortion in the physical sense is where a pregnancy is terminated. Now, laws here in the United Kingdom have just been altered, and I believe laws around the world are being altered that you can terminate a pregnancy up to 40 weeks. Facts and figures, I'm going to be putting them out there, so if you want to make a note of them, please do feel free. So up to 40 weeks. Now, to give you an idea, life after conception begins at 6 weeks. That's when a heartbeat is first heard. It's 6 weeks. So that's when life begins. So if you ever wondered, when does life begin during concept and pregnancy and, all that kind of stuff, then it's 6 weeks. It's not 40 weeks. 40 weeks is a fully grown, fully matured baby. Some interesting facts around the world as well claim that if you're a guy, you can't have a say because only women, it's their body, it's their choice, which is something that has been conditioned by the media. To which I respond, if you, your son or daughter, or someone that you love deeply and cared for deeply was going to commit suicide, wouldn't you like someone to step in and actually try and talk them off the ledge? The answer, obviously, to that is yes. So, when you realize what a lot of things are going on, a lot of things are happening, to me, the core of the issue is not so much the fact that abortions exist. I'm going to talk about that in depth. Whether I think they should be legal, whether I think they shouldn't be. It's not so much the fact of abortions exist, it's not so much the fact of these things are happening. What is more alarming and concerning is the fact that women, and those identifying as women, want to have abortions up to 40 weeks. Going full term. Pandas do that, and you ain't a panda. I don't care how you identify, but you ain't a panda. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it's also the race that everybody seems to have these days to lose their virginity, as fast as possible, but also then, how fast we can get an abortion and how late on in the term we can get an abortion and, all of these things. So you may be sitting there and you may be saying to yourself, well, John, are the reasons for abortions? And I struggled and wrestled with this for a long time. The first thing is there a danger to the child? Okay. The second thing is there a danger to the mother? Now, the really interesting thing is that both of these actually categorize as way down on the reasons for having abortions. I'm going to talk about those with you momentarily. But one of the highest ones that a lot of women claim reasons for having abortions is because of rape. Well, I want to give you a little statistic right now that in the United States, and this comes from USA Today, you can do all your research, that rape pregnancies only made up 1% of all aborted pregnancies. I mean, that was still, into the thousands. And here's a weird thing for you, 0.5% made up incest pregnancies. That's a whole other story. So, when you get into this, and then you look at the figures a little bit more, you can see that 4% of abortions of 2020 pregnancies were from married women. Oh, now that's interesting. Is it 4%? And 86% of abortions were from unmarried women who were just either living with their partner as a result of one-night stands or a lot of other things. Now, I know I'm going to get some comments because I already have when we did this live. And it was, well, what about rape victims? Do you believe that it's right for rape victims to abort their children? Do you realise how twisted and sick this sounds? Even to put it out there, and like so many things in our world right now, it is really twisted and sick. Our world, in fact, our world isn't. The people of our world, our species, the animal, the whatever you want to call us, is sick. is really ill. And as a result, we're infecting everything else. Sorry to say, I said this in another video, I've yet to find anything good that human beings have actually done to benefit this planet. People said, well, they created the telephone, they created love. When that's a whole nother concept and thing we can talk about another time. You know, they created electricity, they created all these beautiful buildings, yeah. And none of it benefited the planet at all. Just putting that out there. So, when we really get into this, as you've already heard, you know, that 86% of abortions are coming from unmarried people. In 2020 alone, 930,160 abortions took place in the United States alone. That's a lot. And when I was saying, you know, that just how sick all of this is in the conversation of this, the reason that all this has come up and come to mind is because Ireland are now saying, we need abortions. Now let's talk about that. You know, the whole, you know, psychology behind we need abortions. People have sex. They have unprotected sex. They don't pull out, they're fertile, they do whatever they want to do, and then they're going to have, they conceive, okay? Then they freak out about it. And they want to get an abortion. Now, there's a number of schools of thought with this. If abortions aren't legal, then what will happen is ladies will go to, oftentimes aided by their families, will go to another part of the world, and oftentimes in developing countries will have abortions done similar to what happened in the United Kingdom in the 40s, 50s, and even the 1800s. So that, I think, answers the question, you know, should they be legal? I think the bigger question is, why do we need them in the first place? I know it's a very bold question. And I want to give you a little bit of facts and figures. So we've already covered that the majority of pregnancies that happen, majority of abortions that happen, are not a result of rape, not a result of incest. They're actually a result of two people having sex and then regretting what they've done. Simple as that. And to give you some facts and figures as well, because I was just pulling all of this up earlier on, the highest statistic in the United States, now I don't know for the rest of the world because I haven't looked, and again I haven't got into enough depth in terms of this. I found more than enough research that I thought you're pretty much going to be covered. So between 15 to 19 years old in 2020 was 8.2%. Of minus 15-year-olds, there was 0.2%. The majority of people that were having abortions was between 20 and 29 years old, with, you're looking probably nearly 40, nearly 50, 60% that's there, okay? 27.9% for 20 to 24-year-olds, and 25 to 29-year-olds scored 29.3%. And then it goes up, obviously, into older and older and older. But here's the really interesting thing. So majority of people think that people have abortions because they, you know, simply, you know, are raped. And in fact, let's talk about this for a second. Just this whole rape concept and abortion after rape. Now, I completely understand that you may not want to birth a child that you've got to look at all the time as a result of a rape and being a rape victim. I get that. But here's the bizarre thing about it. That baby didn't ask for that to happen. That baby is unfortunately a beautiful consequence of what happened. Just think about that. Just for a moment. That child, that sweet, innocent little baby, didn't ask for any of that. But here's the really interesting thing, and this is by, again, this is in the United States. And this was taken by Georgia. Now again, any good social scientist will tell you it's really important to know your facts. So, working backwards, in the lowest to highest orders, the reason for people giving abortions, or the reason people gave for having abortions was this. Pregnancy as a result of incest was 0.5%. Rape victim was 1%. Having completed my childbearing was 38%. Don't want to be a single mother or having relationship problems was 48%. can't afford a baby now was 73%. The highest scoring reason for having an abortion was because having a baby would dramatically change my life. As I've said so many times in these videos that we've done, and many other podcasts and shows and interviews that I've been on, I don't think the reason is good enough, quite honestly. I don't think the reasoning mind behind it is enough to say, well, I've done this, and now I'm going to have an abortion because it's going to drastically destroy my life. What about the life that you're taking? Because like it or not, it is murder. And I swayed whether or not to add this in at all, but seeing as we've gone this far, I think you need to know the whole picture. A lot of people that perform abortions will tell you that it's painless, we just put the baby to sleep, it's a piercing of the womb, and it's fine. Well, here's the thing. If it was a piercing of the womb, it means that your baby is absolutely terrified and that it suffocates to death. And it basically drowns. So it's one or the other. Either drowns or it suffocates to death. But that's not what happens. In the 1970s, research was done and programs. You can see all the documentaries for yourself. There were numbers when I very first started doing the research many years ago. They've now been taken offline, but there are still some floating around online which I was able to research, basically, to give you this information. And it's called the silent scream, which is a term that was coined in the 1970s and 1980s, because that is what happens. These people carrying out abortions in the United Kingdom would go in with forceps, and piece by piece they would remove a child's limbs and child's organs as if it was a jigsaw piece. And it's called the silent scream for a very good reason. It's called the silent scream because literally the baby is screaming as piece by piece it is ripped from its mother's womb. Now, I'm sorry, but somebody say, I'm not sorry. Somebody telling me, having a child would dramatically change my life, and you've waited until 40 weeks to have this done, or anywhere up for, 20 weeks, when baby's starting to grow limbs and things are starting to happen. Do you realize how sick our world is? The fact that this is even a conversation, and it's not just a conversation, but it is something now that human beings are saying, we need this, we must have this. What is wrong with our world? What is wrong with our world is very simple to answer. Our world is a direct reflection of the communal minds that inhabit it. Just the same as your external world is a reflection of your own mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls that are watching this, we have got to as a human race wake up and realize that we are not going to survive if this continues. Just the thought of destroying another sacred life, just so as it doesn't interfere with your life and you can't afford a baby, and do you realize how many parents out there want to have children but they can't? And so it comes back full circle. I think the only acceptable reason for having an abortion is if the mother is at risk or the child is at risk. But in the world in which we are inhabiting now, the world in which we're living in, if these are the laws that are being passed, as we're going to cover in other videos, and I encourage you, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, I encourage you to do so, because what we're going to be putting out, it's not going to be cutting edge, it's not going to be new, but it is going to be factually based. And we're going to make sure you get the right information rather than the BS that you're being fed by the media. So there's some little thoughts for you today as you go about your day. Now, I'm not saying you take it upon yourself and you go out there and you attack everybody under the sun that's ever had an abortion. But my hope is that those numbers will greatly decrease and that people will think a little bit more. If you don't want to get pregnant, and it is within your control, then either don't have sex or use protection. There are a ton of other ways to have sex that doesn't necessarily involve vaginal intercourse. If getting pregnant terrifies you that much, then the simple thing is don't do it. Find other ways. There are a ton of toys out there. But please wake up, because we are not going to survive. Of all of God's creatures, all of, creation's beings that are on here, we are the only one that really self-destructs. And we self-destruct in a major way.